Welcome back to New Rockstars. I'm Erik Voss, and this is a breakdown of Elf, Jon Favreau's 2003 holiday classic that I believe led directly to Iron Man and the Mandalorian, and a movie filled with great jokes, attention to detail that makes me appreciate this more and more every year that I rewatch it. So let's take this scene by scene for dozens of details that you might have overlooked. The film opens with a storybook intro narrated by Papa Elf, Bob Newhart, sitcom legend from the Bob Newhart Show and Newhart. This book, we'll see by the film's end, is a children's book that Buddy writes to recount the events of the film. Elf, a short story of a tall tale. According to director Jon Favreau in the DVD commentary track, his intention was to create the feel of a classic family movie, and he felt that a storybook motif helped cement an irreverent comedy like Elf to feel a touch more familiar using the storybook motif that we saw in movies like Snow White, Sleeping Beauty, and timeless classic Shrek. When pitching to direct David Barenbaum's script, Favreau laid out three principles. One, he wanted the movie to look like a Rankin Bass Christmas special come to life. Two, he wanted to make a true family Christmas movie with none of the vulgarity that Favreau was known for movies like Swingers. And three, he wanted the movie to be a timeless classic, able to be played every year without feeling dated. So notice how this movie's less reliant on like a ton of technology, a ton of topical references. They're much more subtle in this movie. It's kind of the same approach that Chris Columbus used for Home Alone. In my opinion, it's why Elf and Home Alone hold up as annual comedy must-watches, and other Christmas movie attempts don't work quite as well. While Papa Elf narrates most of what we see on the page, you can read some words he doesn't say. Elves can't tell a lie, which is part of what makes Buddy such a fish out of water in New York. He's psychologically unable to lie and doesn't like others who sit on thrones of lies. Behind Papa Elf in this room is a baby rocker, which I'm gonna assume is for his grandkid, though this must be way far behind him because it would be a lot bigger. The interior of Papa Elf's room is the same shade of pale white that we'll see throughout the North Pole. According to Jon Favreau, the pale white backgrounds function as both a visual homage to many iconic Christmas TV specials from Rankin Bass and contrasts the bright colors of all the elves' costumes. Papa Elf and Buddy are dressed in the similar greens and yellows as the boss elf in Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer.
Why weren't you at elf practice?
Papa Elf explains that there are only three jobs available to elves. One, making shoes while the cobbler sleeps, referencing the Brothers Grimm tale, The Elves and the Shoemaker. I like how these elves gripe.
Couldn't even make a clock.
But this shot is also the first of many instances of forced perspective imagery in this movie. This is a technique used to create the illusion of size differences by putting some objects closer to the camera and others further away. Peter Jackson mastered this with the Hobbits in the Lord of the Rings films that were really the biggest films at this time in the early aughts. And here, the sleeping cobbler is actually far closer to the camera while the table is way deeper than it seems, with the segment on the right actually further back of that sitting elf, but they still had his legs hanging over it to make it seem like it was all on the same plane. Really, everyone is looking far behind the cobbler instead of directly at him. Favreau does this throughout the movie, and it's so smooth and seemingly effortless that we don't notice it, but actually a ton of effort just went into this little gag. Now, the second career option for elves is baking cookies in trees, obviously a reference to the Keebler elves. I like how when the tree catches on fire, one of these elves shouts, "I want to make shoes!" The third and best elf career is working in Santa's workshop. We see the elves packing pink Barbie dolls, Etch-a-Sketches, Monopoly board games, Mr. Potato Heads, even Bob the Builder plushies. All of these toys are owned by different companies, including giants like Hasbro, Mattel, and Milton Bradley. And we meet the lead elf, Ming Ming.
Only 2 weeks left till Christmas.
An uncredited cameo by Peter Billingsley, who played Ralphie Parker in A Christmas Story, and I'm gonna assume that he wears red here as a nod to the Red Ryder BB gun. Favreau and Billingsley have long been collaborators. Billingsley was cast in Iron Man as the Stark engineer that Obadiah Stane yells at.
Tony Stark was able to build this in a cave with a box of scraps.
Later named William Ginter Riva, who returns as Spider-Man Far From Home as part of Team Mysterio. The storybook pages flip through the opening credits, and I always love to pause on the flips because you can see this jolly-looking polar bear hanging a star ornament. These pages all foreshadow what we see in the movie, including the creepy Jack-in-the-Box and the snowball fight. We meet Baby Buddy in a Catholic orphanage. This orphanage, along with several scenes in this movie, was actually filmed at a former mental institution, Riverview Hospital in British Columbia. This is where they shot the offices of Greenway Press, the Greenway Press mailroom, the police precinct, and even the spacious Hobbs apartment in Manhattan. Santa is played by the late great Ed Asner, another sitcom legend who's in the Mary Tyler Moore Show. He would later voice Carl Fredricksen in Pixar's Up. The elves celebrate Christmas with shots of milk because only the gnomes drink liquor. And while they all dance, notice that Papa Elf sits alone, huddled over a desk in the background. Santa towers over the elves, another example of forced perspective. Ed Asner was standing far closer to the camera, while the elves are all further away, their eye lines pointed several feet behind Asner. This effect is even more impressive with Baby Buddy in the foreground, making him seem like a really big baby to the elves who find him in Santa's bag. They get the name Buddy from the little Buddy diapers. We never learned Buddy's real life name anywhere in this movie. And some of the most fun examples of forced perspective shots is right here with toddler Buddy on Papa Elf's lap. Papa Elf's legs and hands actually belong to a child actor who is strategically obscured and framed in front of Bob Newhart, who leans in his top half from behind them several feet behind. I love it. It's the same kind of practical trickery that Favreau would use in the shot of Pepper Potts sticking her hand in Tony Stark's chest in Iron Man. Robert Downey Jr. actually squatted beneath the prosthetic chest with a hole in it. But the more ambitious example of this is Newhart behind Kid Buddy on the bike with the background moving behind them, so Newhart would have had to be on a rolling platform far behind the kid in the foreground with smaller hands on his shoulders, someone hidden right behind him. In school, Buddy learns the code of elves. 1, treat every day like it's Christmas. 2, there's room for everyone on the nice list. 3, the best way to spread Christmas cheer is singing loud for all to hear. These rules actually tell the story of this film to its end. The first rule simply characterizes Buddy as someone who just loves Christmas so much. The second rule plants the seed for Buddy's father, Walter Hobbs, to change his ways, even though he starts on Santa's naughty list. The third rule completes the character arc of Jovi, Buddy's love interest, played by Zooey Deschanel, who learns that she has to sing loud for all to hear. While Will Ferrell at 6'3" would tower over these kids already, they still use forced perspective to make him even bigger, because these are elf kids. They would be that much smaller. So Will Ferrell is super close to the camera, that girl next to him is further away from the camera, but they still look to smile at each other. Really, these actors are looking past each other at pieces of tape on the wall. We see this technique again in the next scene in the garage. Multiple versions of Santa's sleigh were actually designed, all in different sizes. A normal size one for Will Ferrell and Ed Asner later in the movie, and a much larger one for Bob Newhart. This close-up of Newhart passes Ferrell on an apple box, and Favreau cuts to Ferrell as a smaller actor wearing Papa Elf's hat passes beneath him. The movie acknowledges our real-world disbelief of Santa Claus. Elf, of course, is all about Santa and him being real, while parents placing presents under the tree is just a rumor. But it also gets into the heart of this movie's plot device, restoring Christmas spirit, turning it into kind of an energy crisis. As Papa Elf puts it, simply a 21st century spin on the centuries-old notion that modern society is lacking in what makes Christmas so special. Papa Elf's Kringle 3000 engine has a 500 reindeer power jet turbine engine. Reindeer power, not horsepower. Love it. Buddy falls behind schedule, producing only 85 etch-a-sketches in a day, but Ming Ming refuses to let him call himself a cotton-headed ninny muggins, even though later Buddy loves to stuff his face with cotton balls, so he is kind of cotton-headed that way. He sends him to toy testing, which is still one of the funniest scenes in the movie to me. From his director's chair, Jon Favreau actually held a remote control that made the Jack-in-the-Box pop out on his command. So Will Ferrell would always react spontaneously. His reactions are all based on Favreau's playful timing. Buddy overhears Ming Ming and Foom Foom reveal that he's actually a human. His room spins. We see him showering in a tiny shower, still wearing his hat, because elves never take off their hats. He sleeps on 2 beds pushed together. He sings in the elf choir, and indeed bringing them down a whole octave, like they said earlier. We see him savagely dunking on them on the basketball court, and there's actually a deleted scene that showed Buddy tearing it up on the ice hockey rink. This is actually the one time we see Buddy in elf clothes that aren't yellow and green because his team wears purple. The evil Jack-in-the-Box laughs over all of this, which is always so funny to me. Like, out of everything, that is the taunt that disturbs him the most. In the bathroom, Buddy hides in. I love the tiny plunger and the little reindeer toilet paper roll holder. Papa Elf hands him a photograph of his father, Walter Hobbs, played by actor James Caan, and his mother, Susan Wells, played by Jane Bradbury. They use an old photograph of Caan when his appearance looked closer to his look in The Godfather as Sonny Corleone. Buddy runs past Arctic Puffin, Polar Bear Cub, and Baby Walrus, 2 of them voiced by Jon Favreau, while Leon the Snowman was voiced by musician Leon Redbone. The third one of those little guys was voiced by Henry Harryhausen. Elf's adorable stop motion was handled by the Chiodo Brothers, a studio that specializes in handcrafted creatures, puppets, and stop motion. They did Killer Clowns from Outer Space, Team America World Police, and Bob the Builder. Leon says that he was once a young cumulus nimbus cloud, and even though Santa says Leon hasn't been anywhere because he doesn't have any feet, he doesn't account for Leon having transformed via precipitation cycle, and for water, I guess, having memory even before magical snowman enchantment. Santa instructs Buddy that in New York there are like 30 Ray's pizzas and that they all claim to be the original, but the real one is on 11. This is a big deal to Jon Favreau, who loves Ray's pizza and actually worked it into Iron Man.
Just because I brought pizza back from New York doesn't mean it went bad.
Uh-huh. Sure doesn't. Oh, boy.
All right, well, this stays with me then. Come on, here, you can have a piece. Take
Thank
2.
you.
Santa reveals that Walter is on the naughty list, and we get this frantic zoom into the list, which Jon Favreau said he based on Sam Raimi's shot in Evil Dead 2. We're introduced to Walter as he takes books back from a nun at an orphanage. There's originally more to the scene where Walter ended up giving the nun a 3-week extension, but I always wondered if this was the same Catholic orphanage that Buddy started in. Papa Elf gives Buddy the snow globe. It's really large in Newhart's hand. Will Ferrell holds a smaller prop, and when they hug, Will Ferrell is actually hugging a child actor. Mr. Narwhal scares away Arctic Puffin, Polar Bear Cub, and Baby Walrus.
Bye, buddy. Hope you find your dad.
Thanks, Mr. Narwhal.
And that, again, is Jon Favreau's voice. I love the detail that Buddy starts off on a large iceberg, but when he floats up to the candy cane forest, the iceberg has melted down to a tiny chunk. It's actually a stuntman wearing Buddy's costume to walk atop this glacier, and then he runs into this hissing raccoon that attacks Buddy, and this hiss was also from Jon Favreau. I like how Buddy assumes that he's friendly just like Arctic Puffin and the other animals that he knew, but nope, not at all. And I love this shot.
Does someone need a hug? I just wanted a hug!
It sounds like they used a monkey scream for the raccoon sound. Buddy makes it to New York, coming in through the Lincoln Tunnel. Location scouting for Elf happened only a few months after September 11th, which Favreau recalled was a difficult period as the city was a lot more guarded about giving out shooting permits than ever. Like Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, Elf lives on as an early aughts New York movie that's really all about bringing New Yorkers together. This montage of Buddy interacting with New Yorkers was actually filmed guerrilla style. Ferrell and a crew of just one camera guy let themselves loose throughout the city, and Will Ferrell will just have random interactions with New Yorkers. Like this man with the beard and the red hoodie and joggers was just a regular New Yorker that Will Ferrell spontaneously ran up to. And that's why in the background of a lot of these shots, you can see other New Yorkers smiling at this idiot that they know from SNL running around. Now, this movie actually did shoot in the lobby of the Empire State Building, which again was a really difficult permit for the filmmakers to obtain in the immediate aftermath of 9/11. It was really now the most recognizable skyscraper landmark of the city. But the elevator scene was actually filmed on a set. Like the real elevators in the Empire State Building don't have all of these buttons. Amy Sedaris plays Walter's assistant Deb. Sedaris would go on to play Pelimoto in Jon Favreau's The Mandalorian, and knowing Sedaris' manic improv style, I'm pretty sure her phone call about declawing 8 kittens was improvised.
Oh, I don't know, Connie. I've never declawed kittens before. How many? 8?
To give is better than to receive, and if you're giving a gift to a kid, it needs to be fun for them, and even better, more fun for you to use with them, right? To play is better than to merely give, and KiwiCo makes awesome crates. It lets you give the kids in your life the gifts they'll love to play and build, either alone or together. Each month, KiwiCo delivers a crate to your door with fun, hands-on projects that are designed by experts and tested by kids, promoting creativity and innovation through STEAM, science, technology, engineering, art, and math activities. There are 9 different lines to choose from, so there's something for every interest and age. This month we got a build-your-own pinball machine, which is super satisfying to put together and is now the new, oh right, we're supposed to be at work thing at the office. If you're not ready to subscribe or you just need a single crate, KiwiCo also offers a variety of individual crates at the KiwiCo store. If you're really feeling the holiday spirit, there's all kinds of specific holiday projects too, like this cozy glowing fireplace or Santa sleigh automaton. Each crate comes with a kid-friendly magazine that empowers the kids to learn more about the projects and complete them on their own. Every KiwiCo crate is a complete project, so you're not going to be running out to the craft store hunting down a special glue or anything like that. To get started with KiwiCo today, head to kiwico.com/rockstars and use code ROCKSTARS for 50% off your first month of a KiwiCo subscription. In Walter's office, we see a book titled The Sea King next to another book titled The Girl Who Lost Her Smile. Both of these are real books. The Sea King was published in 2002 by author Jane Yolen. The Girl Who Lost Her Smile by Karim Alwal tells of a young girl in Baghdad who goes in search of her missing smile. On the walls, we see Lucy and the Pirates by Glenn Petrie and Mr. Belinsky's Bagels by Ellen Schwartz. Buddy sings what he wants from Walter, and they all gradually realize that this guy ain't a Christmas Graham. Buddy mentions Susan Wells, and it freaks Walter out.
I think we should call security.
Good idea.
I like to whisper too.
Now the shot cuts away, but you can actually start to see James Caan begin to break into a smile, because who wouldn't break character at this great bit? Now, one of the Empire State Building's guards holding Buddy is Will Ferrell's own brother, Patrick Ferrell. He's on the right. He's the one who tells him to go back to Gimbel's. And due to the filmmaker's inability to use the name Macy's, because they were refused by Macy's corporate, the department store Gimbel's takes its place in the story. Believe it or not, Gimbel's was actually a real store that operated for 100 years between 1842 until it shuttered in 1987. It was a rival to Macy's and also had a major New York City location in Herald Square, which opened in Midtown in 1910, but here they use CGI to recreate Gimbel's storefront. We don't spend too long looking at it because
Sorry.
The way he just teeters over like a tree. In an interview with Rolling Stone, Favreau said that Macy's was willing to let Elf film in its store, but they were unwilling to budge on the movie, revealing that its store Santa isn't the real Santa, so they had to build a set version of it internally. That's how committed Macy's is to it. Faison Love plays the manager of Gimbals. Wanda Sykes was originally set to play the role, but she dropped out last minute, and Faison filled in, but notice how his name tag on his vest still reads Wanda. So the character's name is still like technically Wanda. We meet Zooey Deschanel as Jovi, looking really weird in her natural blonde hair color based on everything she played after this. According to Jon Favreau, Jovi was originally not a singing part until Zooey Deschanel auditioned and got the part. When the filmmakers learned that she could sing, they expanded Jovi's part to include singing in a small arc where she's too nervous to share her talent with the world. Now remember, part of what made the "I like to whisper too" bit so great is how fast Buddy just appears at Walter's side. And there's a similar gag here with Jovi in the shower, where we last see Buddy sneaking down the hall toward the bathroom, and then Jovi in the shower, and then bam, Buddy's just already seated there on the sink. Because elves are sneaky! While many have pointed out that the lyrics of Baby It's Cold Outside are kind of creepy, this song is not actually about a guy pressuring a woman. It's about two people in a couple flirting with each other. The woman is flirting just as hard back with the guy, and halfway through the song, she turns the tables on him and does it back. Stop trying to ruin Christmas spirit, internet. This is cute. Leave this song alone. Now, this scene of James Caan finding Buddy sleeping in the window was actually one of the first scenes screened for the New Line executives. And if you think about it, removed from its context, this scene just doesn't play well. Like, comes off as kind of creepy and strange. Now, Jovi reveals to Buddy that she has to shower at work because they shut her utilities off. Earlier drafts of Elf told a slightly darker story where its characters struggle to learn the meaning of Christmas. I like this detail though, because it shows how Jovi wouldn't mind a date where they just run around New York looking at bigger and bigger Christmas trees. Comedian Artie Lang plays Gimbal Santa, and I love how this little kid named Paul, once Buddy calls this Santa a fake, this little kid just keeps saying fake, fake, fake.
I'm a fake? Yes. How'd you like to be dead? Huh?
Huge fight breaks out. Buddy gets arrested. Walter bails him out. It takes them to a pediatrician played by director Jon Favreau. Buddy meets Carolyn, who appears later in the movie when Michael reads off Santa's list on the news, and she wants to Susie Talks a Lot. Buddy moves in with the Hobbs family with his wife Emily, Mary Steenburgen, and their son Michael, Daniel Tay. Buddy decks out their home as well. I love the fork and spoon display hanging over the dining table during dinner. Now, Buddy downing an entire bottle of soda was achieved with a pipe placed in the bottle that is carefully obscured by Will Ferrell's face. Buddy thinks that all that normal humans eat is spaghetti, so he makes it again for breakfast and lunch. And I love how he wrote Emily's name in beautiful cursive. Boss Mr. Greenway scolds him for signing off on blank pages in the print that Walter earlier said they didn't need to reprint. Buddy nearly gets hit by another taxi and walks Michael home from school, allowing Buddy to show how good he is at snowball packing. I love this scene. Favreau paid homage to John Woo with the slow motion dive and the throw. I love how for that last throw, Buddy uses the snowball packed by Michael, because Michael really only had time to pack one snowball while Buddy made dozens. So this way, he makes Michael feel included. The moment Buddy jumps onto the tree was actually accomplished through what's called a Texas switch. It's an old school filmmaking technique where Will Ferrell exits the frame and a double takes over to perform the stunt. There's a trampoline hidden in the cushions of the sofa, allowing Ferrell's double to get some vertical height. And the movie's special effects department had a crew member hidden to knock off the tree, while the on-set electrician flicked off the lights just at the right time. The whole thing is just accomplished in one take, and it's awesome. Buddy shadows Walter at work. In the office, he sits on this tiny pig in the corner because he's more accustomed to smaller furniture, but this pig is also some merch from this book that he's reading, Pygmalion, which Favreau said was intentional to reflect what's happening to Buddy as an outsider being changed by their environment. I like how he has a colorful Christmas mug while Walter just drinks out of a plain mug. The phone rings.
Buddy the Elf, what's your favorite color? Put that down.
Oh my god. So if you think about it, the elves in the North Pole all wear clothes dominated by vibrant colors. So their favorite colors are really a huge part of how they get to know each other. Andy Richter and Tenacious D's Kyle Gass play writers Morris and Eugene, who pitch in to bring Miles Finch, the famous children's author, played in this movie by Peter Dinklage. Buddy gets drunk with a mailroom worker, played by Mark Atkinson, a Canadian actor who auditioned for the role of a truck driver in a scene cut from the movie, probably earlier when Buddy was walking along the side of the road in the Canadian woods. He tells Buddy that he's 26, and Favreau knows that this actor does not look 26, but they kept the line in. Buddy starts a tickle fight with this guy after Walter refused to play along in a tickle fight earlier. Buddy takes Jovi on their date, first to the diner with the world's greatest cup of coffee. This is the New York that he fell in love with on his first day here. A cab almost runs them over. The yellow ones don't stop! But this taxi was actually CGI. They go ice skating in 30 Rock and they share a smooch. Now, when Miles Finch arrives in the publishing office, screenwriter David Berenbaum actually cameos as that Greenway Press employee reading the newspaper. We see Peter Dinklage in this role years before he was cast as Tyrion Tyrion Lannister in Game of Thrones. Favreau wanted to cast Peter Dinklage because Favreau had seen him in Living in Oblivion and was a huge fan. I like how in this movie we never hear what Miles' big pitch was. Buddy's naivete greatly insults Miles, and while Will Ferrell plays the scene with complete sincerity, on this one line, he adds just a little bit of salt on the take to make it sting.
Does Santa know that you left the workshop?
So Miles beats the crap out of Buddy, and Walter explodes in rage at Buddy. Buddy leaves a goodbye note on an Etch-a-Sketch with the snow globe, because the snow globe would have been his only way of finding his dad. It's kind of like leaving your keys after a breakup. Walter decides to walk out of his pitch meeting in order to find Buddy. Buddy walks out on a bridge, which is a nod to George Bailey's dark moment in It's a Wonderful Life. Santa crash lands in Central Park, and the third act shifts into kind of a Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer storyline, as Santa has to ask the outsider, won't you fly my sleigh tonight? And I like how when Buddy first approaches Santa, Santa's like, back off, Slick, showing his street smarts from the thousands of times he's visited New York City. New York One reports on the scene where Buddy is spotted trudging through the brush, and Will Ferrell walks exactly with the big steps and the arm swings to recreate the famous 1967 Patterson-Gimlin footage allegedly showing Bigfoot in Bluff Creek, California. It's such a deep cut, and it's so funny. Charlotte Dennon interviews a random New Yorker who proceeds to hit on her, telling her that her eyes tell the story, you've got a great mouth. This is Matt Walsh, UCB co-founder and star of HBO's Veep. In a 2023 interview with the AV Club, the actress Claire Laurier said that Matt Walsh improvised all of these lines, which is why she's laughing during the segment. Later, Charlotte interviews an NYPD officer. Laurier said that that was a real NYPD officer who improvised his lines as well. And we meet the Central Park Rangers. These don't actually exist. These were imagined by Jon Favreau as an homage to the ring wraiths from the Fellowship of the Ring. His idea for them was, quote, a dark, mysterious force. The reporter Charlotte mentions controversial crowd control tactics at the Simon and Garfunkel concert in summer of '85 that are still under investigation, which is hilarious because nothing would be more chill than an outdoor summer concert with Simon and Garfunkel. And this is in 1985, which would be like 15 years after they broke up. So like a reunion concert with Simon and Garfunkel. Originally, Elf's climax was gonna involve NYPD chases and stunts on the Empire State Building, but Jon Favreau scaled it down to just a crisis of Christmas spirit so that it felt more like a Frank Capra It's a Wonderful Life type climax. And we get a quick glimpse of Santa's list, which includes Victoria Down, English riding saddle with leathers and a crop, Drew Davidson, Rock'em Sock'em Robots, Andreas Neiman, complete set of titanium drivers, new golf club, Nathan Ticanor, Apple iBook laptop computer with 1 gig hard drive and a built-in CD burner, Michael Hobbs, Rio Huffboard with high 145 Thunder Tracks, 52mm Spitfire classic wheels and bolts, Jimmy Miller Hot Wheels Turbo Ultra racetrack with 6 cars, power launcher and a track cleaner, and Penny Gibbs and Old McDonald Farm something. Santa tells Michael that they can't just get the news crew to come in and talk to him because Christmas spirit is about believing, not seeing. So Michael reads from the list on the news to connect with the people who are watching, where their heart's desires are. He includes Charlotte Dennon, who wants a Tiffany engagement ring and her boyfriend to stop dragging his feet and commit already. And I love how this gives a huge boost on the clausometer, which could just be from this being so specific that everybody watching at home is like, her face says this is real. But I also like to think it might have come from Charlotte's boyfriend out there, wherever he was, maybe watching this at home, suddenly realizing, yeah, maybe now's a good time to go buy a ring and pop the question. Jovi helps by singing in front of the crowd. Santa Claus is coming to town, and Emily is the first to join her.
He knows if you've been bad or good.
Whenever I see the scene, I just kind of think about how in 2007, Mary Steenburgen woke up from minor arm surgery and said that she constantly hears music in her head. Like her reality has turned into a musical. I'm not joking. This is something she has said in interviews. And after a few months, she had to just kind of get used to it, and now it has led to a songwriting career. Meanwhile, Buddy's sworn enemy, the Jack in the Box, gives him one last scare. Santa says, I'm getting too old for this job. Like and Lethal Weapon.
I'm too old for this.
They lose the engine and nearly crash over this unhoused man with a radio around his neck. This guy's name is Craig Castellato, and he's known as Radio Man. He's cameoed in over 300 films and TV shows that are shot in the New York area, including Elf, 30 Rock, The Amazing Spider-Man 2. He's become a friend to several different film crews. He helps them put up no parking signs to kind of help the PAs clear the set. And he just kind of always knows where stuff is shooting in New York. So they put him in everything. And I just love to see this guy show up. The last boost they need is to Walter to finally just join in the caroling because he's just mouthing the words. And he finally sings the song, which launches the sleigh and it's off into the sky. And I like how as Buddy waves goodbye to Michael, the 4 Central Park Rangers are just standing behind the crowd glaring at him. We get a fade transition from the Empire State building to Buddy's snow globe, which stays at home in the Hobbs home. Walter plays for Jovi, singing Auld Lang Syne. Buddy unwraps a big jug of maple syrup, and it looks like Emily ended up with a sexy lingerie for that special someone. In Walter's new publishing office, his first dollar came with him, framed on the wall, along with framed photos of Michael from his old office, and a poster for his new book, Elf. It's a smash hit, and it's a story we've been hearing all along. The final shot of the movie brings Buddy and Jovi to the North Pole with their daughter named Susie, after Buddy's mother, Susan Wells. And they let Arctic Puffin sit inside with them. And we end with one final great shot of forced perspective, but this I think is my favorite one, because we start with Will Ferrell crossing Newhart's seated body, and we actually see Newhart's full body for a few frames, and it appears to all be connected, but it's actually just one long costume draped over itself in a specific way, with Newhart way further behind, and a second set of legs in the foreground where Will Ferrell sits down. Papa Elf's body only looks slightly weird if you just pause it on these specific frames, and it's just amazing how well this practical effect works, and how much attention to detail the entire film crew put into this holiday classic. Hey, happy holidays from New Rockstars. Thanks for supporting us this year, and try not to crush the legs of your loved ones by sitting on their laps unexpectedly. I'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.